What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actresses sits down for what should be a calm, routine interview and instead walks straight into a media firestorm? What you're about to hear is the moment a daytime talk show crossed an invisible line. A moment so tense it left a live audience frozen, producers panicking, and viewers at home glued to their screens. This is the story of how a single interview spiraled into on-air chaos, and how Jodie Foster's response instantly changed the power dynamic in the room. But before we get into it, take a second to subscribe and drop your thoughts in the comments, because by the end of this story, you're going to have a lot to say. Now, let's rewind to the studio. The atmosphere was already thick as Jodie Foster took her seat across from Joy Behar. Cameras were rolling. The audience was packed. Everything looked normal, polished, professional, predictable, or so it seemed. Jodie was there to promote her latest directorial project, a deeply personal film exploring family trauma, healing, and redemption. It was the kind of thoughtful conversation viewers expected from her: reflective, intelligent, controlled. But something felt off. Joy leaned forward, wearing that familiar smile, the one that looks friendly but never quite reaches the eyes. "Your new movie deals with some heavy topics," she began. "Family dysfunction, abuse, generational trauma. It makes me wonder, are you pulling from your own life here?" Jodie shifted slightly, clearly surprised by how quickly the question turned personal. Still, she remained composed. "Well, Joy," she replied calmly, "all artists draw from experience in one way or another. This story resonated with me because many families struggle with communication across generations." A safe answer, a professional answer, but Joy wasn't finished. "Right," she said, pressing harder. "But I mean your family specifically." The tone in the room changed. "Your relationship with your mother was complicated, wasn't it?" Joy continued. "Between your childhood career and the John Hinckley situation, that had to leave lasting scars." The audience went quiet. Even the co-host sensed it. Whoopi Goldberg glanced down the table at Sarah Haynes. This wasn't where the conversation was supposed to go. Jodie's jaw tightened, just slightly. "Joy, I'm here to talk about the film," she said evenly. "The characters are fictional, and while art can be personal, I think it's more meaningful to focus on what audiences can take away from the story." A clear boundary. And then it was crossed. "Oh, come on." Joy waved her hand dismissively. "You can't hide behind art when you're putting your own trauma on screen. Your mother pushed you into Hollywood as a child. That's what happens to child stars, right?" The words hit the room like a shockwave. "And then," Joy added, "when an obsessed fan tried to impress you by attacking a president? Where was your mother then?" The silence was deafening. Cameras kept rolling, but even the operators hesitated. This was live television, and it was unraveling fast. Jodie didn't raise her voice. She didn't lash out, but something in her tone changed. "Joy," she said firmly, "you're confusing an interview with an interrogation. My mother was a single parent raising 4 children. She supported me, protected me, and helped me make decisions that allowed me to grow into who I am today." "Protected you?" Joy scoffed. "From where I'm sitting, it looks like she put you in harm's way and benefited from it. And now you're making movies about family trauma. The connection is obvious." The discomfort was now impossible to ignore. Whoopi leaned forward. "Maybe we should—" "No," Joy cut in sharply. "Let me finish." She turned back to Jodie, voice sharpened with conviction. "Our viewers deserve honesty. You've built this image of being private and dignified, but really you're just another former child star who never dealt with her past. And now you're projecting it onto your work." That was the moment. Jodie Foster stood up, slowly, calmly. She removed her microphone and placed it on the table. The studio was completely silent, the kind of silence where every breath feels loud. When she spoke, her voice was quiet, but unmistakably powerful. "Joy," she said, "I've been in this industry for over 50 years. I've worked with countless journalists, artists, and interviewers who understand the difference between curiosity and cruelty. She paused, and today that line was crossed. Without another word, Jodie turned and walked off the set. Producers rushed in. Cameras cut away. The audience sat frozen, unsure whether they'd just witnessed television history or television disaster. But one thing was clear. In that moment, the power shifted. Jodie Foster didn't just leave an interview, she delivered a masterclass in dignity, boundaries, and quiet strength. And the question now isn't what she revealed. It's whether the show ever fully recovered from what happened next. What you're doing right now isn't journalism, it isn't entertainment, and it certainly isn't professional. The words landed hard. "Oh, so now I'm unprofessional?" Joy shot back, her voice rising as color rushed to her face. "I'm asking the questions everyone else is too afraid to ask. That's real journalism, Jodie. Maybe you've been surrounded by yes men for so long, you've forgotten what a real interview even feels like." The tension was suffocating. Jodie slowly turned toward the camera, her Oscar-winning composure unshaken despite the storm swirling around her. And in that moment, she stopped speaking just for Joy. She spoke to millions watching at home. "To anyone who has survived trauma," she said calmly, "to anyone who has built something meaningful out of difficult experiences, don't let anyone reduce your story to someone else's entertainment. Your journey belongs to you." A pause. Then she turned back to Joy. "And as for you," Jodie continued, her voice steady but razor-sharp, "I hope one day you learn the difference between being provocative and being cruel. There's a reason people trust me with their stories. And there's a reason they're starting to question whether they can trust you with theirs." The cameras caught everything. Joy's expression flickered. Confusion, anger, and for just a split second, something that looked like shame. The other co-hosts sat frozen, unsure whether to step in or let the moment unfold. In the control room, producers debated cutting to commercial, but no one could look away. Then Joy recovered. Her media instincts kicked in, even as her judgment seemed to vanish completely. "Trust you with their stories?" she sneered, leaning back in her chair. "Please, you've been hiding behind PR-approved answers for decades. I'm trying to have a real conversation here, but you're treating this like a royal audience. Like we're all supposed to bow down and ask you soft questions." Jodie remained standing now, one hand resting on the back of her chair. The power dynamic had completely flipped. What once looked like a host interviewing a guest now felt like a courtroom, with Jodie as the calm, dignified defendant, and Joy as a prosecutor who had lost all sense of proportion. "Joy," Jodie said, her voice carrying a warning that didn't need to be loud to be heard, "you're confusing real conversation with public humiliation. There's a difference between thoughtful questions about someone's work and trying to psychoanalyze their entire life for entertainment." "Entertainment?" Joy snapped, her voice climbing higher. "This is a talk show, Jodie. Entertainment is literally our job. But apparently you think you're above that now. Too good to engage with the people who watch this show and buy tickets to your movies." Finally, Whoopi leaned forward, trying to regain control. "Maybe we should—" "No," Joy interrupted again, holding up her hand. "I think the audience deserves to see what happens when someone comes on this show acting like they're better than us. Like their pain is somehow more sacred than anyone else's." The camera zoomed in on Jodie's face. And that's when it happened. Her expression didn't change dramatically, but something shifted behind her eyes. A line had been crossed, a decision had been made. "You want to know about pain, Joy?" Jodie asked, her voice calm but weighted with meaning. "Real pain isn't something you parade around for ratings. It's not a talking point or a gotcha moment. It's what shapes you quietly. It teaches empathy. It makes you careful with other people's hearts." "Oh, spare me," Joy scoffed, rolling her eyes. "You're sitting there acting wise and wounded, but at the end of the day, you're just another actress selling a product. And that product happens to be built on your childhood trauma. Don't get mad at me for pointing out the obvious." The discomfort spread across the table. Sarah Haynes shifted in her seat, clearly desperate to redirect the conversation. Maybe we could talk about the technical aspects of directing. Sarah, please, Joy snapped. The adults are talking. Jodie came here to promote a movie that's obviously autobiographical, and now she wants to act like questions about it are crossing some sacred line. That's not how this works. Jodie took a step closer to the table. The room seemed to shrink around her. You're right about one thing, Joy, she said quietly. And everyone knew. Whatever came next was going to end this conversation forever. This isn't how it works, Jodie said quietly. Professional interviews, respectful conversations, basic human decency. None of that seems to work for you, so let me try something different. The studio went completely still. Even crew members froze in place. No papers rustling, no whispers, just silence. I've been coming on talk shows since I was 13, Jodie continued, her voice growing stronger with every sentence. I've answered thousands of questions about my life, my work, my choices. I've dealt with paparazzi, tabloid lies, and strangers who believed my privacy belonged to them. She paused. But in 5 decades of public life, I've never encountered someone who seemed to take such pleasure in trying to hurt another person on live television. For once, Joy opened her mouth, and nothing came out. Jodie didn't stop. You keep talking about real conversation, she said, but real conversation requires respect. It requires listening. It requires seeing the person across from you as human, not just content for your show. Her eyes locked on Joy. What you're doing isn't conversation, it's performance. And the performance is cruelty. The words hit hard. Joy finally found her voice, but her response only made things worse. Oh, so now I'm cruel because I ask hard questions? She snapped. Because I don't treat celebrities like fragile glass? Sorry if that bursts your bubble, Jodie, but this is the real world. People have opinions about your life whether you like it or not. There's a difference, Jodie replied calmly, between having opinions and weaponizing someone's personal history for television drama. And the fact that you can't see that difference explains a lot about what this show has become. The reaction was instant. Joy's face flushed red, and in that moment, any remaining restraint disappeared. What this show has become, she shouted. This show has been successful for over 25 years. We've interviewed presidents, Nobel Prize winners, every major celebrity on the planet. And now some actress who hasn't had a hit movie in a decade is going to lecture me about television? The insult hung in the air, heavy, reckless, irreversible. Everyone knew it. Jodie Foster's career spoke for itself. Her recent directorial work had been critically acclaimed. Undermining her credibility wasn't just wrong, it was a catastrophic miscalculation. Jodie smiled for the first time all day, but it wasn't warmth. You know what, Joy? She said evenly. You're absolutely right. I haven't had a hit movie in a decade. I've been too busy directing films that matter, working with actors who respect their craft, building a body of work I'm genuinely proud of. She stepped slightly forward. And you're right, I'm not used to this kind of treatment. In my world, people come prepared. They treat one another with basic respect, and they understand their job is to serve the audience, not their own ego. My ego? Joy snapped, suddenly standing up and stepping out from behind her chair. You're the one who walked onto my set acting like you were too good to answer simple questions about your own movie. I answered your questions, Jodie shot back, unwavering. I talked about the film's themes, about healing, about family, about recovery, but that wasn't enough for you. Her voice hardened. You wanted blood. You wanted me to break down and confess to a story you'd already written about my life. The two women now stood face to face in the center of the studio. Cameras captured everything. Every gesture, every flicker of emotion. The co-hosts looked helpless, watching what felt like a slow-motion collision they couldn't stop. You want to know what I wanted? Joy said, her voice cracking with something that sounded like desperation. I wanted honesty. I wanted someone to finally admit that Hollywood is built on damaged people selling their pain, to audiences who eat it up. I wanted you to stop pretending you're above it all. And then came the line that would dominate headlines and social media for weeks. Joy, Jodie said, her voice slicing cleanly through the tension. The difference between us is that I've never pretended to be above anything. I've acknowledged my struggles, I've grown from them, and I've used them to create something meaningful. She paused, just long enough to let it sink in. You, on the other hand, are using other people's pain as a weapon. You do it because you think it makes good television. Her final words landed with devastating clarity. That's not honesty, that's exploitation. The studio didn't erupt. It didn't need to. The damage was already done. Joy's face shifted rapidly. Anger, confusion, defiance, and then something else. A flash of recognition. Exploitation? Her voice cracked. I've spent my entire career giving people a platform. I've fought for women's rights, social justice, political accountability. Don't you dare stand there and lecture me about exploitation. Jodie took another step closer. Not aggressive, just deliberate. Then why? She asked calmly. Why are you so determined to tear me down instead of building something meaningful? Why is your first instinct to hurt instead of help? She let the question breathe. If you truly cared about justice, wouldn't you want to use this platform to discuss the real issues my film explores, instead of turning my personal life into a spectacle? For the first time since the interview began, Joy had no immediate response. The silence stretched. Viewers could see it, and she was searching for an answer that wouldn't prove Jodie right. Whoopi leaned in, sensing an opening. Maybe we should all take a breath. No, Jodie said gently but firmly. I think Joy wanted a real conversation, and I think she deserves to finish it. Then, unexpectedly, she asked something no one saw coming. Joy, why are you really angry? What is this actually about? The question wasn't sharp. It wasn't mocking. It was almost therapeutic, and it cracked something open. You want to know? Joy said quietly, her voice carrying a different weight now. It's about watching people like you coast on talent and privilege while the rest of us fight for every scrap of attention. The studio didn't move. It's about sitting here day after day entertaining housewives and retirees, she continued, while actors like you get to make important art and act like you're changing the world. It was the most honest thing she'd said all day, and it revealed everything. Jodie's expression softened. Joy, she said, I understand feeling undervalued. I understand working hard and feeling invisible. But taking that frustration out on your guests won't fix it. She paused. It will just make people stop wanting to work with you. So you'll never work with me again? Joy snapped, but the venom was gone, replaced by defensiveness. I don't know, Jodie answered honestly. That depends on whether you learn from this moment, or double down on the behavior that created it. Joy finally looked around the studio. The audience was silent, not entertained, not amused. They were watching someone unravel in real time. You think you're better than this show? Joy said, but the fire was gone. Better than this format. Better than me. I don't think I'm better than anything, Jodie replied. I think I deserve basic respect, just like you do. Just like everyone watching. Her voice remained steady. The difference is, I'm not willing to trade that respect for ratings or manufactured drama. Sarah Haynes cautiously tried again. Maybe we could talk about the hopeful message of the film. Stop, Joy snapped, turning on her colleague. Just stop trying to fix this. You all nod along every day. You never push back. At least I'm trying to do real journalism. Is that what this is? Jodie asked, genuinely curious. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're having a public breakdown and using me as an emotional punching bag. The words were quiet, clinical, devastating. Joy opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Then her shoulders dropped. You know what? she whispered. Maybe you're right. Maybe I am breaking down. Maybe I'm tired of pretending this matters. When people like you make it feel like slumming it just to be here. The room held its breath, and Jodie's response, the one no one expected, was filled not with triumph, but compassion. Joy, what you do here can matter, Jodie said softly. This show reaches millions of people every single day. You have the power to educate, to inspire, to bring meaningful conversations to people who might never encounter them otherwise. She paused, letting the weight of that sink in. But you can't do that if you're more focused on tearing people down than lifting them up. Easy for you to say, Joy muttered, sinking back into her chair. You get to choose your projects. You work with whoever you want. You make art on your own terms. I have to fill 5 hours of television every week with whoever walks through that door. Jodie didn't flinch. Then make it count, she replied, her voice gentle but unwavering. Make every interview matter. Ask questions that serve your audience, not your frustrations. Use this platform to elevate people instead of diminishing them. The studio was completely silent now. Even the crew had stopped moving, as if everyone instinctively knew they were witnessing something that would never happen again. Not like this. Joy stared down at her hands while Jodie remained standing at the center of the set, calm and grounded. Finally, Joy looked up toward the cameras, suddenly remembering that millions of viewers were watching this unfold live. We'll be right back, she said quietly. Then, louder, more mechanically, we need to go to commercial. But the cut never came. Whether it was confusion in the control room or a conscious decision to let the moment breathe, the camera stayed rolling as Joy turned back to Jodie one last time. I'm sorry, she said. And for the first time all day, it sounded real. You didn't deserve this. None of this was about you. I'm sorry you got caught in the crossfire of whatever this was. Jodie nodded slowly. Thank you for saying that, she replied. And for what it's worth, I hope you find what you're looking for. She paused. Just try to find it without hurting other people along the way. With that, Jodie picked up her purse and walked off the set. Joy Behar remained seated at the table, silent, while Whoopi, Sarah, and the rest of the panel scrambled to regain control of what was left of the broadcast. When the cameras finally cut to commercial, viewers were left with a haunting image. Joy sitting alone, stunned, perhaps realizing for the first time the true cost of her approach. Because in that moment, the entertainment had vanished. All that remained was reflection. So what do you think? Did Joy Behar cross a line? Or was she simply doing her job as a tough interviewer? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more behind-the-scenes stories that reveal what really happens when the cameras keep rolling. Because sometimes the truth is far more dramatic than fiction.